Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, February the 6th, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. As always, before we get going, let me remind you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And again, on Facebook, just find us, search for us with our show title in the Spotlight 411. And once you're on our fan page, make sure that you like it so you can follow us and all that good stuff. All right. Obviously, we were late. Nothing new there. Today was my mom's birthday, so things went a little longer than planned. And again, as I said, over the last few weeks, when you have a pregnant wife, things happen. So, she had to be taken care of. So that's what I was doing. Obviously, we'll probably run a little late on Thursday as well because I got that class going on. So, just bear with us on that again this week. Hopefully, it won't be like last week. I don't think it will. I think we'll probably be able to have a more manageable time this week as far as Thursday goes. But we'll see. But like I said last week, plan for Thursday to be another one of those, like, we'll probably start around 9:15, 9:30 at the earliest on Thursday. So it'll probably be, a later show, but, we'll see. How late, we'll see. But the one good thing we got on our side is that Thursday we don't have a lot to do. It'll be a typical entertainment show. We'll just be doing box office beat, TV highlights, all that stuff. We won't have what else we do other than the stuff we have to do. Will be dependent on time. So, we can kind of control what we do on Thursday as opposed to last week when we had to do a lot of stuff on Thursday because we had the film awards on Tuesday. So we won't have, a problem really with having the show go too long on Thursday. So that's a good thing as opposed to last week when we had, the problem was we had to do a long show on Thursday. So we don't have that problem this week. So that's a good thing. We do have a lot to get to tonight. Like I said, as far as Thursday goes, TV highlights, box office beat, film picks of the week, all that will be on Thursday. Anything else we do will be dictated by time. So stay tuned on that. If there's anything else we do, I'll let you know about at the beginning of the show. I did have some plans to do something else, but again, time permitting on Thursday. So I'll talk, if we have time, I'll mention at the beginning of the show what else we're going to be doing. If we don't have time, then we'll just do what we have to do, and that'll be that. So that's the deal with Thursday. Next week will be a very similar schedule. I know a lot of people have been talking to me. Next week is Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is on a Wednesday. I anticipate still doing two shows next week. I think at the very least we'll do a show on Tuesday. There's a possibility that I might not do a show next Thursday, not because of Valentine's Day, but because that is the last of those labor delivery classes. And, I kind of think this one might be a normal time this week, have a more reasonable time of exit this week. And next week might be longer because it's the last class. We'll see. I mean, if I cancel anything, it might be next Thursday, but we'll see. Otherwise, I don't anticipate. I'm trying not to cancel any shows because, like I said, my wife's due this month. And, I want to try to get as many shows in as I can before that, we have the baby. So, and again, things can happen quickly. So, if we all of a sudden have to take an unexpected hiatus or something, you'll know what's going on. It's because when we have the baby. So just bear with us with that here as we go through these next few weeks and that. Obviously, once we get to March, we have the tournament, and we always take a hiatus through that anyway. But, obviously this year things are a little bit different with us having a baby and everything else. So, keep all that in mind here going forward. The schedule is going to be very hard. We can't really do as many special things this month as we normally would because you just don't know, week to week or day to day what's going to happen. So we have to kind of, keep things rather, I won't say vague or wide open, but we can't really do a whole lot. We just do what we can do, and that's about it. So, hey, it is what it is. So stay tuned, I guess. We'll let you know as we go along here what's going on. Stay tuned to our social media because if anything happens, if we have to do like a last-minute cancellation or something, we'll let you know through those means. Because this is probably going to be something that we don't know about in advance. So, keep that in mind. But as far as the schedule goes that we do know, as of right now, Thursday we'll have a show. I told you what that's going to be about. And then next week will be the same kind of schedule. Tuesday, you know, sports and wrestling. Thursday, entertainment. The same kind of things we're doing this week, we'll be doing next week. You know, all the usual stuff we have to cover, and we'll do some NBA All-Star game next week. You know, football. This is the last week we're going to do football unless something big happens in the offseason. We won't be doing football. So, you know, we'll have our sports stuff won't be taking as long. I mean, we'll be doing more college basketball, obviously, as we go down the stretch here. But really, not having to do football frees up a lot of time. So, so next Tuesday we'll do the Bracket Bugle, which will make its return tonight. College basketball bubble watch, all that good stuff. You know, we'll do wrestling headlines. We'll do, you know, any other big sports headlines we have to cover. All that will be on our Tuesday show, and then Thursday, get entertainment, box office, BTV highlights, all that stuff on Thursday. So that'll be the drill next week, just like this week, if you know, assuming we have shows all the way through next week. So, all right, so that's a little insight into what's coming with the schedule and whatnot. My co-host has popped on. He's probably a very, very happy Kevin Owens fan tonight. Mike, you're in the spotlight.
What?
I said you're in the spotlight. I said you're probably a happy Kevin Owens fan. I cannot hear a word you're saying.
Kevin Owens fan?
Are you?
Am I? I don't know. I didn't watch SmackDown. I didn't watch SmackDown. No.
Oh, somebody's in a mood.
I don't get a chance. I don't SmackDown on Tuesdays.
Oh, well, I thought you read the spoilers or something. Well, you know, sometimes you've done the show and you've been watching it on your computer. So I didn't know.
Well, they've cracked down on streams, so I haven't been able to really get to it.
I apologize. So okay, that was wrong.
You should apologize.
Well, still, you
should apologize.
You can read the spoilers, and I'm sure you'll be happy.
I'm sure I will be.
But so, all right. So, well, this is one of Mike's favorite shows of the year because it's the last time I'm going to do football. So,
oh, good.
Yes. So, and I'm going to be honest with you. You know, this is for me, before we get going here, because again, we're obviously going to do the Super Bowl. We're going to wrap up our discussion of the NFL season. We'll get to the offseason. We got the breaking news tonight concerning Josh McDaniels and what happened there, and so we'll talk about that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of NBA with the trade stuff, which I think is getting interesting. We're going to bring in the Cleveland Cavaliers drama because that's getting really, really interesting. We talked a lot about that last week. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And then we got college basketball bracket. We got a little bit of wrestling, not a lot because there ain't a lot to talk about, but we'll do a little bit. But first, I want to acknowledge a horrible tragedy that took place on Sunday. Colts player Edwin Jackson passed away in a car accident involving a drunk driver. Him and his driver passed away, and we want to express our condolences to both of them and both their families and loved ones, and may they both rest in peace. A senseless, horrible tragedy. Jackson was only 26 years old, and just a horrible, horrible tragedy on Sunday morning. So we wanted to make sure we note that here at the top. It's a horrible thing, and involving a drunk driver, and it's a sad story. So our condolences and prayers go out to their family, friends, and loved ones. And again, may they both rest in peace. A sad thing that happened on Sunday. Like I said, we'll talk. So I want to bring that up at the top of the show because that's very important, and again, more important than everything we're going to talk about tonight. And again, we have a lot of football to talk about tonight, and we'll start there because that's the subject of the last couple of days is the Super Bowl and all the ramifications from it because, whenever you have a Super Bowl, there's a lot of things to talk about, even if the game's bad. There's, why the game was bad, if it is a bad game, if it was good, why was it good? What happened, what happens to the losing team coming out of it, what happens to the winning team, and sometimes there's even more layers to that. In this case, there's a lot of layers to this. I would say more layers.
So,
go ahead.
Brian, we should preface this conversation by saying that there are lots of layers to this. One of those primary layers is This is why we don't let Philadelphia win anything.
That's look, that's something that, you know, and that is, you're right. That is part of it. You're absolutely right. That is a big part of it. And you know, I like the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan. What happened, the way that people behaved in the aftermath of that. And look, Philadelphia fans have always had a bad reputation. And look, they brought it on themselves. And I don't want to go into like a segment where I'm bashing Philadelphia fans, but at the same time, I mean, Philadelphia police scanner was trending on Twitter for how long? Sunday night into Monday. You know, it's sad, it's disgusting, and it's revolting that you can't. I mean, I hate to see what would happen if they lost. That you can't celebrate a victory like that, championship. And I know that a lot of championship celebrations get out of hand, but to that level, to that extent, was completely and utterly disgusting to even. Everybody involved in that mess should be ashamed of themselves, and it's a shame because you know you get this great victory, you win this championship for the first time, and you have to ruin it and mar it by doing junk like that. It's just, I don't know.
There were fans. There were fans literally eating horse shit.
Yes, among other. Among other.
That's not a joke. There were fans actually eating horse shit.
Yep, that was part of it. In addition to violence and fires and looting and a lot of horrible things took place during those celebrations. And again, I recognize that because I know some people are going to say, well, this happens with a lot of championships already. Yeah, it does. Not to this extent. I don't know if I've ever seen it to this extent. Sometimes you see it more. I mean, maybe when a team loses, that has a very volatile fan base, but not when they win. To me, that's just unfathomable why you would celebrate the way you did when you won. Like, first of all, it's bad either way, whether you win or lose, to do it to that level, okay? To that extreme. It's bad either way. But, I mean, when you win, it's like, why? Why can't you just go have a few drinks, go celebrate safely and have fun? Why do we have to make complete and utter asses out of ourselves? Like, why do we have to do that? You know? Not me, but them, you know? So, just a terrible, terrible thing. It really it really ruins it to an extent. It really does. But yeah, Mike's right. That is one layer to it, among other things. And, you know, when you're dealing with it, you know, I think there's a lot more layers to the game after, because we talked about last week, we can really barely talk about the game itself because there wasn't a whole lot going on. There's more coming out of the game than there is going into the game because you got, you know, we talked about the way that the Eagle fan base chose to celebrate, but you got, as far as everything else, you got Nick Foles. What happens to him now? Because Carson Wentz is the quarterback. What happens to him? He's the Super Bowl MVP. Once they got around to play calling with the RPO, the way that they want to play call with him, the way that Chip Kelly play call with him, he became the Mick Foles of a few years ago, which looked like a star. And now, you know, a lot of teams are going to call the Eagles because they know that he's not going to be their quarterback. So there's going to be that added layer to this offseason. And look, if you're the Eagles, I know that you worry about Carson Wentz, you worry about the ACL. Well, will he be ready for training? How will he be? Will he be the same? I know you worry about that, but at the same time, Foles' value is never, ever going to be higher than it is right now. It's never going to be higher. And you just want a Super Bowl. You can take the risk. You have to move him here if you're ever going to move him. Because you're going to get a lot more back now for this guy than you would any other time. Because what happens, okay, let's say Wentz isn't ready, all right? You play Foles for maybe, the first 3 weeks or something, and he doesn't look anywhere close to the way he did. You're losing value. You're not going to get as much of a package back. This is the time to make this move. It's a good move for Foles because he's proven himself, and he deserves to start. He deserves to be given that chance. He's done nothing but earn that chance right now. So you give them a chance to start, and it's good for the team because they can fill a need that they have through this trade. So this is an important thing. So that's a layer that you're going to see play out this offseason. And, you know, obviously Carson Wentz and what happens with him. And then the Eagles, you know, they're a good team. And they're going to see if they can be an even better team next year. So that obviously be a story. That's one part of this. That's one layer of this. A couple layers of this, I should say, on the Eagles side. On the Patriots side, obviously there's a lot going on. We talked about a couple weeks ago all the supposed tension between Belichick and Kraft and Brady. which seemed to start, has been brewing and then got worse with the Garofalo trade, which, apparently what Belichick didn't want to happen because who knows how long Tom Brady's going to quarterback. And now Brady thinks he can quarterback for what, 4 more years, 3 more years, whatever he said. So, you got that. And you got, is this the end of that dynasty? Is this, because remember, we talked about the early part of the season, the Patriots did not look good. They looked like they had kinks in the armor. And yeah, they turned it on and they end up right where they usually end up. But at the same time, they got exposed in this game. The same problems. And I said this before, championship games, playoffs have a tendency to bring out the problems. They could not defend in the secondary. They got destroyed downfield. They can stop the run. They can stop the short gains. They can stop the underneath plays. They cannot stop the big plays downfield. That's been a problem for them for years now. Sometimes they've been able to get around it. Sometimes they haven't. But they got beat in this game terribly with this. And to that end, you wonder about the Butler situation. Was it right or wrong what Belichick did? That's another layer that none of us saw coming. This guy had a great game in the AFC Championship game, and where he would have been playing on the field, where he would probably be playing, the position he would probably been playing on the field is where they got destroyed as far as the passing game goes. So he would have made a difference there. Would it change the game? It could have. Only lost by 8. And you don't know what it's supposedly a disciplinary thing. That there's a lot of people that seem to think, I don't know, people in the Patriot Rock room that think it was the wrong move. You play your whole year, and then apparently Belichick decides before the national anthem to tell Butler that he's not playing. Now, here's my thing, okay? If it was a disciplinary, like, many people assume it was one of those things where he didn't adhere to the curfew the night before the game. He came in an hour late or something. All right, you know what? Look, I'm not saying not to punish somebody. I'm not saying that. But if it was something like that, and we don't know, that's important here. If it was something severe, okay, something really, really serious, and you'd have to think that it'd come up, but you don't know. If it was something serious, okay, then I get it. Even as much as some people might not, I get it. But if it was something as simple as he didn't, curfew or he no-show to practice or something, bench him for a quarter or bench him for half a quarter or something like that. In the Super Bowl, when everybody else in that locker room busted their tail to get there and your whole season is there, you can't do that because it sends a bad I know some are going to say, well, wait a minute. If you let him get away with it, then what are you saying to this is the Patriots. They don't let anybody get away with anything as far as disciplining their team. They've always been stern with that for the most part. Bill Belichick has anyway. So why would this be an issue here? All right. I mean, I don't think you're sending a bad message, assuming it's a minor thing, like, oh, I missed the curfew or something. If it's a minor thing like that, you bench him for a few minutes, bench him for a quarter, and you play the guy. Don't take him out of that game, the entirety of the game, for something that minor. If it's serious, then fine, I get it. But I will say this much. Look, if you're going to take him out of the game, it would have been right to tell him earlier in the day. Not telling him right before the national anthem, right before the game's about to start, is just completely malicious. Because he practices, he gets ready, he prepares for the game, he's going out on the field with his team, national anthem, the Super Bowl, and then you basically break it to him and say, you know what, you're not playing. That's really malicious to do that. That's the complete wrong way to do it. And that seems to be what they did, and that's got to ruffle a lot of guys in the locker room too. So I can understand why some people would be mad and some fans would be mad because that was probably handled very badly. And who knows? That could have had a huge impact on the game, not playing Butler. And again, that's another added layer to this whole thing that Belichick created on Sunday. And again, the biggest layer is what happens to the Patriots from here on out. It looks like Belichick's going to stay. It looks like Brady's going to stay. It looks like obviously Kraft's going to stay. Now they lose Matt Patricia. He becomes the Lions coach. We've talked about that the last few weeks. It looked like they were going to lose Josh McDaniels. We talked about that too. It looked like that was a foregone conclusion. Well, today Josh McDaniels changed his mind and pulled a Bill Belichick and said no to the Colts. And leaving the Colts in the lurch because all these other jobs have been filled and a lot of the top candidates are gone. They're off the board. So that it's back to square one for him. They also get more bad news today as Andrew Luck. There's rumors that he might have to have another surgery, which really, at this point, you wonder if he'll ever have a career again. Because even if he does come back, what will he be like? So the Colts got a double dose of bad news. They don't know where they're going to go for a coach. And I know a lot of people are going to go crazy about Josh McDaniels doing this, but apparently, according to what the story is, Josh McDaniels told the Colts that he was going to need time to mold the offer and that he had a lot of reservations. He had to think about whether he wanted his family to be out of New England and move him to Indianapolis, uproot them. He wasn't sure if he wanted to lead the Patriots. He wasn't sure about a lot of things. I guess the Patriots made a big late push with Bob Kraft to keep him. Some people think, well, maybe McDaniel's staying, that means Belichick's gone. Apparently not. Apparently, if Belichick was gone, McDaniels didn't want to stay. So this adds another interesting layer to it. McDaniels is staying when we all thought he'd be gone. So that gives at least the Patriots some level of stability. They only have to go get a defensive coordinator now. So that's important. And it helps solve some of the uncertainty of this offseason for them. And obviously for the Colts, it creates a whole bunch along with the Andrew Luck situation. But, you have that part of it. And again, what will they do with Brady? There was some talk before the Super Bowl of them maybe saying to Brady, we're done with you. I can't see that now because he got him to another Super Bowl. But who knows what's going to happen here? Is this the last time that we see, the Patriots do what they did? Now, I know people are going to say, well, we could have said that any time over the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years. No, I don't think so. There were moments this year where Brady looked very ordinary. He did it in the last 2 months. But for a lot of this season, there were times he looked like an ordinary player for the first time ever, really. The Patriots looked like an ordinary team at times this year. This ain't going to last forever. You're at the point now. And remember, the one guy that we always said they cannot do without is Tom Brady. And he's 40 years old. And yes, I know that he's still performing at a high level. Even if he looked ordinary at times, he still was at a higher level than most quarterbacks would be. Especially at that age. At some point, it is going to end. At some point, it's going to, even the great Mariano Rivera, he retired at a high level. He got out before it got bad. But it has to end at some point. He decided his own ending. Brady might be one of those that will have to. It might never leave him. He still might be at a high level even when he retires. But he has to write an ending here if it doesn't happen for him. You can't play forever. Brett Favre tried, God knows. So you wonder what the plan might be there. But again, a lot of things on the Patriots side are uncertain. Whereas with the Eagles, a lot of certainty. Except for maybe, what will happen with Nick Foles and when will they trade him? Because I don't think it's an if, it's a when. That you cannot keep that guy on this team. There's just no way, not after what he did. So these are all the layers that come out of this game for the most part. And you'll be talking about a lot during this offseason. Now, the game itself, look, if you like offense, and look, the casual fan, the fan that only watches the playoffs or the Super Bowl, love this game. Love this game because, especially the second half, which was back and forth, constant action, very quick, fast-paced, not a lot of stoppages. And I'm going to give the officiating crew a lot of credit. I love the fact there was very few stoppages. I love the fact that the two critical calls in this game, the 2 Eagles touchdowns that I was surprised that so many people were divided because both calls were the right calls. They were both touchdowns. Sorry, they were. All right, clear as day. All right, they were both touchdowns. I don't know what Chris Collinsworth was talking about in the broadcast. I really don't. All right, and I'm not going to go the whole route of like, oh, it's the Patriot bias. I don't think it's that. I don't know what they were talking about. I think they were misinterpreting the rule or something. But both times I thought the officials got it right. Most people think they got it right. I thought the officials did a great job in this game, letting the guys play a little bit, giving them a little bit of freedom. I really liked the way it was refereed, and hopefully that means that whole catch rule is going to be gone, and hopefully that means better improvements. Because I'll tell you something, they can improve the officiating, make clearer rules and kind of stop and lessen the stoppages in the game, that will help a lot next year. A lot. But yeah, it was a very, you know, for the casual fan, it was a good game. You know, a lot of big plays, a lot of offense. You had some drama late. Nobody would have expected this game to end 41-33. Nobody would have. And I told you last week, I said I thought the Eagles would be competitive because I expected Foles to be and the Eagles to play at least as good as they did against the Vikings, which would be enough to be competitive. But I also said, too, in order to win, they had to play better. Now, their defense did not play better. I thought this was the worst defensive game the Eagles had all season. Their defense was terrible in this game. I don't know if it was the Patriots' game plan or what, but their defense was awful on Sunday. Was not good at all. But their offense was just as good as it was against the Vikings. It was stellar. Foles with the plays down the field. They played it perfectly against the Patriots. Offensively, I thought they did a great job moving the ball. Perfect job on offense for really both teams. Defensively, it was bad for both teams. But again, if you're the casual fan, you love that. You want the offense. You enjoy it. And then you want the drama late, and you got it. And look, was this a classic Super Bowl? No, it wasn't. But it's the kind of game that you want. I mean, at the bare minimum, it's the kind of game you want. You want it to be competitive. You want it to be interesting. You want, if you're a casual fan, you want the offense, you got it. Now, the rating was the lowest since 2009, but that was because I think, it was limited. You had two Northeast teams playing each other. I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of the Patriots. This is not like the Yankees, where the Yankees have these stars. The Patriots only really have Gronkowski and Brady. Okay? In baseball, you can get around with the Yankees dominating for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. In football, you can't. People are sick of it. And they just weren't interested enough in the Eagles going against the Patriots. So it doesn't surprise me, the rating, but at the same time, it was an interesting game. And again, it played very, very, very quickly, especially at the end. And Foles made all the plays. And the Eagles made all the big plays on offense. The Patriots did not make the big plays, and that was the difference in the game. Because both defenses couldn't stop each other. So that wasn't a factor here. It was really the fact that the Eagles made more big plays late than the Patriots did. And the touchdown before halftime, which I thought was huge in this game. And then going, of course, and Peterson going for that fourth down, which, look, was the play call was great. I love the play call. It was unnecessary because I think they could have gotten it some other way. But I love the play call, and I'm asking all year for somebody to do that in the Patriots, so that was kind of good to do that. But at the same time, it was unnecessary. You didn't have to do something that complex to get the job done. But I digress. The fourth down play, I love how everybody acted like there was some gutsy play. They had to go for it on fourth down. You have to. You're that close. Even if you turn the ball over, the Eagles have to go the length of the field on the 5. Why wouldn't you go for it there? Because remember, you don't win. You don't beat the Patriots or Tom Brady with field goals. You beat them with touchdowns. You got to go for it there. And then they went for it late as well, and I thought that was key too. So big keys there, and then of course the 2 touchdowns where they had to be reviewed. Those are big. And then I would say too, what was interesting about this game was all the extra point misses, which I did not understand. It was crazy. It was like somebody got in the kickers' heads. I don't know what was going on there, but or the field goal team's heads. I don't know what was going on there in this game. That was very surreal to see. But again, if you like offense, you love this game. If you're a casual fan, you probably love this game. So as a whole, was it one of those memorable? Was it a giant Patriot type game or Seattle, New England type game? Even last year when the Patriots had that memorable comeback, was it that kind of game? No, I mean, it was memorable in a way because of the Eagles and everything that they brought with the backup quarterback and Foles, and it's just the last hurrah for the Patriots. I mean, it's going to be memorable for a couple things, but it's not something that you're going to look back on 10 years down the road and go, "Wow, that's a huge Super Bowl, big game." Not going to do that. It'll hold its own, but it's not among the greats, I don't think. The halftime show I thought was terrible for the most part, except for the Prince tribute. I thought Timberlake was, I'm not a big fan of him live anyway, but I thought it was just, especially at the beginning, was awful. I did like the fan interaction though. I thought that was cool. And I was surprised that they didn't have too many surprise guests. The commercials, there were a couple good ones. The David Harbour Tide thing was funny. Morgan Freeman, Peter Dinklage. I thought that was good. The best, my favorite one was the Time of Your Life thing with Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning and the Giants. I thought that was really, really good. And then, you had some weird trailers. And there were some good commercials. And I mean, all in all, I thought it was an okay event. I mean, we've had better. We've certainly had worse. It's really if for what you want in a Super Bowl event, it was, it checked all the boxes. It was good enough. Does it help this NFL season? I think they had a decent playoffs. I think they had a good enough Super Bowl. So, it makes it better as a whole. It makes it seem better as a whole. It was obviously a very rough season for the league with the ratings drops and the controversies and all the problems. We talked about it all season long. A lot of teams just weren't good enough, and that led to a lot more great records at the top. People, you really couldn't disguise it as parity because it wasn't. It was just a lot of teams just weren't that good. What do you look for here going forward? Obviously, a lot of eyes will be on the Patriots, as we mentioned earlier. A lot of eyes would be on the Eagles, what they do with Foles. Obviously, the Colts will see what they do going forward with the whole coaching situation and Andrew Luck. We'll see what the Steelers do to kind of keep up with the Patriots here. Some of the teams that broke through this year, like the Rams, you wonder what they're going to do. The 49ers ended the season strong with Garoppolo. They're going to be an exciting team to watch next year. Obviously, Jacksonville, will they go get a quarterback, or will they trust Blake Bortles one more time and see where they go? Because they had a breakthrough year. You figure the Texans will be back next year with a health, much healthier with Deshaun Watson at the quarterback position. The NFC South had this great year. What will happen next year there? The NFC East will figure to be just as tough next year. See what happens with the Giants and the Cowboys and the Redskins, how they try to keep up with the Eagles. So a lot of things. There's far more than that, but the Chiefs and what they're going to do. Alex Smith gets traded, which is a huge shocking trade. We didn't talk about it, but he goes to the Redskins, which pretty much cements the end of the Kirk Cousins era. Which is, again, you just got to figure the Redskins just got sick of negotiating with him. They decided to make a move that protected them, and that's why they did it. The Chiefs are going to go younger, which I don't know if that takes them out of contention next year, but we'll see. Bears watching, I suppose. And now you wonder what Kirk Cousins will do. There's going to be a spending spree on a quarterback. We haven't seen that in a long time. So, and obviously Foles will be out there too. So there's two prime quarterbacks out there in Foles and Cousins that can help some teams. And we'll see what happens with them. That'll be a huge offseason story this year. And, of course, the draft and everything else. So, again, it was mostly a forgettable and at times ugly NFL season with a fairly decent playoffs, with a good enough Super Bowl, and that kind of comes to a softer landing, I suppose. And there's a lot of stuff to watch for this offseason. We'll see what happens as this offseason goes on and goes into the fall when the new season starts. And anything big happens, we'll cover it. If not, we won't cover it. Because that's what we do. It's at season's over, that's it. Because I don't do the draft and everything. That enough people are going to do that. So that's it. That's the NFL season. And now we move on to college basketball, NBA All-Star Game, and all the other big sporting events that come after football. So, Mike, before I move on, any Super Bowl thoughts or?
I hate the Super Bowl. Let's just start with that. I hated the game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't care. And it's not that I didn't like either team or whatever. I didn't care. So let's move from there. Was I invested in the whole Tom Brady thing? No, but did I enjoy the memes? Yes. We can all assume that I enjoyed the memes of Tom Brady fumbling a pass. What else? Yeah, the Nick Foles situations is going to be weird. Do you think they would have won the Super Bowl if Nick Foles wasn't the quarterback? It's hard to say or guess. They might not have been there if Carson Wentz wasn't the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Carson Wentz was the quarterback. So things that make you go, Anyways. As for the Patriots, they'll probably be back next year. It's not hard to assume the Patriots won't be back next year, but I think the tensions and the divisions in that locker room are only going to get worse. So it's just something they're going to have to keep an eye on for next year.
Yeah.
Especially since they're going to have a lot of problems moving forward. Especially now they lost. So what are they going to do? Who's going to start blaming the everybody else? So we're in for a rough landing in New England, but again, they're probably going to get there. But I really don't have an awful lot to say. The commercials were just absolutely average. I also like the Tide Pod ads. I like the Tide ads with David Harbour. They were very funny. I enjoyed. I agree. The same commercials you mentioned. I didn't think that the Eli Manning Odell Beckham Jr. one was the best. I thought the David Harbour stuff was the best. But yeah, the Morgan Freeman one, that was good. It was very, very good. Pardon me. So yeah, it was a solid amount of ads this year. There was a lot of controversy around the Dodge ad, as well there should be. That was a shit move by Dodge. So you can imagine why people are not happy that the Martin Luther King speech was used and appropriated for a Dodge Ram. Yeah. Drunk Kevin Hart's a thing. And that's about it. It's like, but I think the biggest story, the Super Bowl was what it was, but then after it. And let's be honest here. This is why Philadelphia should not be allowed to win any sports except for Villanova. When Villanova wins, we don't get this. We don't get this at all. So this is a problem. This type of behavior is a problem. You're not allowed to burn down your city when you win the Super Bowl. You're not allowed to burn down your city when you win a World Series. You're not allowed to burn down your city when you win the NBA championship, even though it's going to be a long time before the 76ers do anything remotely resembling winning a championship. This is why it's not allowed. So
yeah,
you embarrass yourself, you embarrass your city, and by the way, I'll be damned if Saturday Night Live did not call this in that sketch. In that sketch featuring Tina Fey and Rachel Dresch, I'll be damned if they didn't call that to the fucking letter. They said, in Philadelphia, just because you might win does not give you the excuse to burn your city down. And guess what happens? They won the Super Bowl, so Philadelphia's response is, let's burn our city to the ground. And that's another reason why people don't like Philadelphia. Because of bullshit like that. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that was my biggest takeaway. Not, what are they going to do with Nick Foles? Oh, did they make a mistake in trading away that dude, Philadelphia, New England? Oh, what's the relationship going to be? Oh, why did the Patriots defense suck so bad whenever they show Matt Felicia or whatever the fuck his name is? Every single time they showed that guy on screen, Coach Felicia.
Matt Patricia?
Every single time. Patricia, whatever. The Eagles somehow got a big player, scored a touchdown every single time. I don't know if that's going to speak to his Lions tenure, by the way. If they're going to show his ass on screen, all of a sudden the Lions give up about 15 touchdowns. So I don't know. I was not impressed. Just college basketball season's here, so fuck the NFL. I'm done.
Yeah, and we do have some college basketball to talk about, which we'll do later. Because again, that's what happens. The Super Bowl ends, and all eyes go to NBA All-Star Game too, but mostly college basketball and the journey to the tourney, if you will, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. First, we're gonna do a little NBA. Because that's an important deadline that's coming on Thursday. The trade deadline is coming on Thursday. And, if you didn't think it was going to be interesting, it is, because with the Blake Griffin move last week, the Clippers signified that they're going to be open for business. There's all kinds of rumors about DeAndre Jordan, including Houston and Cleveland trying to go after him. Cleveland's trying desperately to get in on anything. They've even tried to go in on Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, but Portland won't do it. Especially since apparently Cleveland doesn't want to move Love and only will move Love in a package where they don't have to move too much else with them. It's kind of like, okay, we'll move Love, but we're not going to move too much else with them. Or we'll move Tristan Thompson, but again, we're not going to move too much with them. And Denver's got some things going on. They might trade Will Barton, who's been great for them. They would like to dump Kenneth Faried. So, there's that going on. The Wolves might make some deals. They've had a great year. They're looking to upgrade. So there's a lot of little things. But the big thing, and the thing that a lot of people are now wondering, and that's going to make this trade deadline over the next 48 hours interesting. Nobody thought this would play into this, but the Cavs implosion, and by the way, they probably reached their lowest point tonight. And again, we all thought they'd already done it, but tonight they had a 21-point lead on Orlando, and they lost that 21-point lead and ended up losing the game 116-98 tonight, which drops them to 30-22. Apparently, Tyronn Lue left the bench to go to the locker room with Cavs trainer Steve Spiro during a timeout. The assistants drew up a play together, and Larry Drew was addressing the team in a huddle during the game. I don't know what happened with that. I'm trying to find out if anything more happened. If there was actually, I'm looking it up right now. What's going on there? I don't know if there was an injury. Lou missed the game December 21st for an illness. So yeah, I don't know. He must have something medical going on or something. But you add that. There's been all kinds of rumors about Tyronn Lue and maybe him going. People have been asking LeBron James if he's even going to finish the season there. This thing is imploding. There's all these statistics coming out when Isaiah Thomas is on the floor. The Cavaliers are apparently terrible on offense. So they're again, more blame for Isaiah Thomas. Kevin Love's hurt. You won't see him till at least May. LeBron has said he's there for the long haul and that he's not, he'll see the year out. Now there's talk today that Dan Gilbert wants LeBron gone. He's sick and tired of building the team around LeBron James, who only commits year to year. There's been talk that they might use this trade deadline to start planning for the future. So a lot of things. Again, Cleveland's allegedly trying to get players like DeAndre Jordan, or even some players like Lillard and McCollum. Portland's not going to trade Lillard and McCollum. So let's get off that right now. If you want to go get DeAndre Jordan, that's not a bad thing to do. Although I think Houston probably is going to be, again, inside track because they're trying to go after Golden State here, and they probably have the best chance at this point, theoretically. But there's also been some talk that maybe the Spurs will move Marcus Aldridge again, so that's out there. So a lot of this is rumblings, but the big centerpiece of this, other than what the Clippers jumping in on the fire sale brigade last week with Blake Griffin, now potentially DeAndre Jordan. Other than that, it's Cleveland, who again is trying to improve their roster. DeAndre Jordan, George Hill, whatever, but at the same time, it's getting worse instead of better. This is a team that's just imploding before your very eyes. They can't defend. Their offense is sputtering. They don't have a steady rotation. Every day there's something new to deal with. You know, you're getting to the point here, and again, the trade deadline's on Thursday. Let's say they don't do anything, and it's the status quo. This team's not winning a championship. They're not. Even if Kevin Love comes back, they're not. That ship has sailed. If they get to the finals, consider yourself lucky. There's just too much going on, and there's no defense, and it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. So, you know, it's shocking to see what's happened and how it's just getting worse instead of better. It's like it's going downhill really fast in Cleveland. And you know, if all these rumblings are true about Dan Gilbert and everything else, I think LeBron James is done. Because he won't want to be attached to this. This is becoming a complete and utter mess. On par with what we've seen with some other teams when things fall apart, like the Lakers and the Celtics, and you know, when the big teams that have been together for a while and you know had great success start to fall apart. This is what it feels like. Nothing goes right. You know, there's egos, blame going around. Nothing gets kept in the locker room. It's a constant, you know, injury. You know, there's injuries, constant drama. Will a coach go? Will a player be moved? Every day, it's something new. We've seen this before with a lot of teams, and it never ends well. It ends with the whole entire team essentially being blown apart and starting over. And I think you're headed towards that. I think this is it for the Cavaliers as they currently are. This is the end of the road. And, you know, could they still eke out an appearance in the finals this year? I suppose it is possible, although I'd give that a 50-50 shot at this point. A lot of things have to break right and change for that to happen. But it's a possibility, but they will not win the finals. There's no way in hell unless they do something incredibly drastic on Thursday. And honestly, the only drastic moves they can conceivably make with their framework is going to get a DeAndre Jordan or a George Hill. And none of those guys, I think, you know, they're going to have to give up something good to do that. None of those guys are going to win them a championship against Golden State. They're just not. One or both of them, doesn't matter. Won't do it. So reality is starting to creep up on the Cavs, and that's a huge headline here with the trade deadline. Again, I mentioned some other rumblings for some players. And again, with the NBA trade deadline, a lot of times things come out of nowhere, like the Blake Griffin thing and the official start of the Cavaliers fire sale. That came out of nowhere. Nobody expected that because they thought they'd still go for it this year. So lots of interesting things going on. And the Cavaliers story, which we talked about last week, now becomes the lead story in this trade deadline, and of course going forward. We said it wouldn't go away. I didn't think it'd be the centerpiece of the trade deadline. Well, it is, and after tonight, it definitely is. So makes things rather interesting as we go through these next 48 hours and beyond here, because this is not getting any better. It's getting much worse. So, yeah. Yeah, Mike, what are your thoughts here on what's going on with the Cavs and this trade deadline and what's probably not going to get done, what's going to get done, whatever?
You know, I was just enjoying the end result of SmackDown. The story continues. And then you ask me about the hot mess that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Look, the last week I said they need to get rid of Kevin Love and they need to get rid of Tristan Thompson. Any move right now that gets rid of Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson is a move that the Cavaliers need to make.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't be picky and they can't be stingy right now. They need to get rid of those two guys. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I had dinner slightly before I came on, so now it's coming up. So I apologize if I'm gassy. Guys. But you interrupt me so soon after my dinner, and what am I supposed to do, Brad? What am I supposed to do? So Dan Gilbert is pissed off that LeBron James is the forefront of this team. Well, he was pissed off when they didn't have LeBron James. Now he's pissed off now that he has LeBron James. What do you want the guy to do? Dan Gilbert essentially needs to shut his fucking mouth. Long story short, Dan Gilbert needs to shut up. Because that type of owner behavior literally gets you nowhere. It only creates unnecessary drama. It only creates unnecessary divide with your team.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't happy with the way, right now, if you are unhappy with the way your team is playing, that is an issue you need to talk about with coaching personnel, particularly Tyrone Lue. And especially when you've got a combination of guys like, and I quote, on the floor tonight for several minutes were a combination of Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas. Who else? I mean, Tristan Thompson was there, but he didn't do shit. So, I mean, you had 3 guards. You had 3 guards. 2 of them are older. And Isaiah Thomas, you had 3 guards on the court tonight, and you're wondering why you blew a 21-point lead.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, my God. Your issue is not with LeBron James, who, and let's be honest here, LeBron James is looking to win. That's the long and the short about LeBron. He's looking to win basketball games. That's it. And if your team cannot get that done, then somebody else will. And let's be clear here, LeBron James is a draw anywhere in the NBA. And if Dan Gilbert can't get his head out of his ass and realize that unnecessary divide and unnecessary drama is hurting his team, then he doesn't deserve LeBron James at this point. As for Cleveland definitely needs to make a move at the break. Period. End of discussion. End of discussion. They need to make yes, they desperately got in on DeAndre Jordan. Well, that's fucking great. You need to land DeAndre Jordan. You need to get on the phone with the Clippers and you need to get the deal done. You say, look, we'll give you Kevin Love. We'll give you Tristan Thompson. We'll give you some draft picks if you want, but we need this guy on our team yesterday. Now, is DeAndre Jordan Anthony Davis? No. He's certainly not Anthony Davis, but that's okay. He doesn't have to be Anthony Davis right now. He doesn't have to be. However, you need a center who will produce.
Yeah.
And that's your guy right now. That's your guy. So you make the move for DeAndre Jordan because that's all you can do. So do it. Shut your mouth and do it. You want to win now? Good. And if you want to throw Derrick Rose in there, sure, ship his ass off too to Los Angeles. Because what's he going to give you right now? Yeah. Derrick Rose, in my opinion, is a less tentative Dwayne Wade. Excuse me, it's a more tentative Dwayne Wade. I apologize for that. Excuse me. So if you want to ship his ass off to somewhere else, please do. Because you're not getting too much for him right now anyways.
Right.
So, yeah. Make your move. That's all you can do right now is make your move. So just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Will DeAndre Jordan They need, and you know what? You need a new coach too. But that's the long and the short. Will DeAndre Jordan solve all your problems? No. But it helps right now. So you got to do something. You got to do something. Especially if you have any hope of making the playoffs this year.
Right.
And making the finals this year.
Now, I don't know if they can potentially do this, but if they do go get, I know they're very high on George Hill too. They like Jordan, they like George Hill. I know they want to try. They're trying to go big with McCollum, or they're not going to get McCollum or Lillard. It's not going to happen. So I mean, checking in on him was the right move, definitely. But if they can somehow get both Hill and DeAndre Jordan, because Hill is a great wing defender, and he gives you some offense too. That would be great for them. That would help a lot. They're both professional, both helpful pieces. They're good on defense, and Hill can bring a lot of good leadership and professionalism, and I think that's important right now. So if they can get Hill or DeAndre Jordan, if they get both, that's really good for them, and puts them very much back in play if they can get the pieces together and stay healthy. If they don't, if they get one or the other, or then I mean, it helps. But again, you're still a long way. But if they don't get any of them, and we're still going to, like you said, they stay the status quo, it ain't going to be good. It's just not. I mean, I never thought that they would become this much of a mess. I never thought, and a lot of people want to go all the way back to Kyrie Irving. It doesn't go back to Kyrie Irving. This could have still worked out just fine. It just, the Cavs have always been a team under LeBron James that's had problems at points in the year. They go through a rut, and then they kind of have to refocus. It's always been that way, but this is not a rut. You are seeing cracks. There are problems with this team and the chemistry and the culture in this team. There is a problem. There is a fundamental problem somewhere, and they need to address it, or it's never going to get any better. And sometimes going out there and making a significant move, removing a piece that isn't working for a piece that could work, is enough to change all of that. And maybe getting a DeAndre Jordan can do that. It's worth checking out. That's for sure. But it's going to be interesting. Again, this Cleveland Cavaliers story has become the centerpiece of the trade deadline. And it'll be the centerpiece of All-Star Weekend and everything else going forward. And, we all suspected that. But for the trade deadline, I didn't think anybody thought this would be this big of a story. And it is. Especially in light of tonight. It's crazy. Crazy what's transpired. And we'll see. We'll see if any other big moves happen. And, let's see what happens to the Cavaliers and such. We'll talk about it. If anything big goes down, we'll definitely obviously talk about it, and we'll, see where the chips fall. That's for sure. All right, we're going to do something a little different. Instead of going into college basketball, we're going to end with college basketball, because how long we go with that segment is going to depend on time. And the wrestling stuff, I think, could be rather short. So I want to do the wrestling stuff now just to get it done, and then we'll end with college basketball. Because again, how long we go with that is going to be depending on time. And this is the first week we're doing the Bracket Bugle, so usually we don't do a whole lot with it. But still, I want to make sure that we don't, things don't get unwielding here. So we'll jump to wrestling really quickly before ending on college basketball and going back to sports. We had Raw, we had SmackDown this week. We got a little bit more information about Elimination Chamber. We had some more qualifying matches. We now know that Elias Sampson will be the last man into the Chamber match after he won the main event against Strowman and Cena last night. Cena kind of put him over last night. That was big. Strowman kind of was the last man standing. We continue to wonder maybe if Strowman has played himself into, or if he's in the position now to be in the main event now with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You wonder if that's a possibility. The Jason Jordan stuff, which we've been hearing about for a few weeks now, looks like it has become a reality. We heard that he was banged up. There might be a significant injury of his neck, and he was having gripping issues. Yesterday, they mentioned it on the air. They also ran an exit angle with Kurt Angle sending him home. Well, today he had surgery. Now it's supposed. Now you might have heard today that if he had the major surgery that they were talking about, he might be out 12 to 14 months. It does not look like that's the surgery he's had. Apparently, he had surgery on a disc in his neck. It does not look like he had the very serious, like the major surgery. It looks like he had a rather less invasive surgery. So nobody knows what's going to happen there yet. But nonetheless, he's going to be gone for a bit. We'll see what happens with that. So that played itself out last night and played into how they got around the bar retaining the tag team titles. Reigns filled in for Jordan, and obviously Jason Jordan cost Reigns and Rollins. So they had that angle. The women's division had a lot of developments last night as they announced Nia Jax will face Asuka at the Elimination Chamber. If she wins that match, she will end up in a triple threat match for the women's title at WrestleMania for the Raw side. It was funny how they kept implying that Asuka's definitely going to pick Alexa Bliss, even though there's possibility that she won't do that. Alexa Bliss had a good promo with Kurt Angle, I thought. Very good promo. The point made some good points about Brock Lesnar and everything, and I thought that was good. But you had the Nia Jax stuff, and then they announced the women that are going to be in the chamber match against Alexa Bliss. Roman Reigns beat Bray Wyatt to qualify for the men's chamber. Next week, they're going to have a second chance match for guys like Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, Matt Hardy, to see if they can get back for a spot in the chamber, the last spot in the chamber, which was probably supposed to go to Jason Jordan. Obviously, that ain't going to happen now, so that's probably why they're running this bracket. Miz also gained a spot in the chamber, which wasn't very unexpected. So a lot of developments on Raw last night, a lot of good matches, and a very wrestling-focused show. You don't get those too often, but there was very wrestling-focused, a lot of long, good matches last night. SmackDown tonight, you had some good developments. They're doing something odd with Randy Orton. He started RKOing people, including Bobby Roode, Rusev, Aiden English. Not sure what the deal is there. My theory is it has something to do with those rankings. I don't know, for those that do not know, SmackDown's doing these rankings voted on by guys in the locker room that apparently are going to be playing into how Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon make some matches and some decisions. I guess Randy Orton was 9. Maybe the part of it is that Randy Orton's trying to prove himself. I don't know. Maybe they're inserting him into a U.S. title feud. I don't know. The first guy he attacked was Bobby Roode, so seems like a thing Triple H would do for two of his guys. So maybe that's where they're going with it because. Rusev lost the match tonight to Bobby Roode, which I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I thought there was a possibility Rusev could win that match. But it was a good match. So I don't know what they're doing with Randy Orton, but he was kind of random tonight. You had the main event, which ended in no contest, which I'm surprised by because I thought they'd give the nod to Sami Zayn only because they've had Owens face Styles a ton. But I guess Triple Threat's kind of new with them, even though he kind of had that the last pay-per-view in a way, even though it was a handicap match. But yeah, you got a triple threat now at Fastlane with Owens, Zayn, and Styles. There was some interesting stuff for Bryan and Shane. For those that thought they ended the angle, they didn't. There's still tension there. They played up the fact that Bryan might be living vicariously through Owens and Zayn, and he's a Yep movement, a cheap ripoff of his Yes movement. They played on a lot of angles tonight, which I thought were interesting. And that was really it. I mean. I think they're going to do. Apparently, they're going to do Ziggler and Corbin next week, which again proves to you that they completely messed up the Ziggler angle. Because I don't think that was at all what they were going to do with it. But nothing new there with WWE. So yeah, some good developments on SmackDown, some good developments on Raw. You got the Jason Jordan stuff. We'll see where all that goes, and that's really all it is. I mean, 205 Live had a big week last week. New GM. And again, they got started their tournament, which, they're hinting that there's going to be surprises. Probably Ricochet would be one of them, I imagine. But yeah, not a lot going on, but some interesting things. Mike, you got any thoughts on the wrestling this week?
Real quick. The Cavaliers have made an official offer for the Clippers for DeAndre Jordan.
Okay.
That will include their 2018 first round pick, Tristan Thompson, of course, J.R. Smith, and cash for DeAndre Jordan. So the ball's in Los Angeles' court right now. So it's a solid offer. It's a solid offer for essentially a guy you're trying to get rid of pretty heavily. What were you saying?
It fits all fits everything that they want. some expiring contracts, a draft pick fits.
Mm-hmm. So who knows? Could be interesting. As for Raw, I didn't see an awful lot of Raw last night, but apparently, Asuka and Bailey had like a pay-per-view level match last night.
Mm-hmm.
From what I read, from what I've heard, I haven't seen the match yet because I haven't had time to really sit down and like watch it. But apparently, they had an amazing pay-per-view level match. It's Asuka's second in a row, so they're burning it off. Excuse me. It sounds like they're burning off all of Asuka's major matches right now because, as hinted earlier, she might not pick Alexa Bliss. By the way, we already saw that match, and Asuka already won. So it's Asuka versus Nia Jax. And yes, Bliss's promo last night was fantastic. She pretty much threw Kurt Angle under the bus and she had a counterpoint for everything he wanted to say. Even the end, he's like, sounds to me like you're just trying to get out of the match. And she's like, yeah, Brock Lesnar hasn't defended his title in forever. Why doesn't he get to defend his title in the Elimination Chamber? It's a good point. Alexa Bliss was bringing the fire last night. But as for the rest of the show, the main event with Elias and Braun and Cena was good. It was good. They kept Braun out of the match, and Elias gets the surprise upset on Cena. That's the right call. Especially since Elias throws Braun out after Braun hits him with the power slam. And the correct thing happened. Braun Strowman laid out Elias and Cena for the next 10 minutes as the crowd cheered him on. That was a moment. And you could see Cena just be like, all right, we're doing this. We're doing this. This sucks. We're doing this. Oh, my God. It's like we know this guy's the top guy. So yeah, they're making a case for Braun being in that main event match. I am tired tonight. Yeah, you're yawning too.
Yeah, it's epidemic.
I guess so. And yeah, it was interesting. I guess don't have much to say about that. Had a great match with Bray Wyatt. Didn't see it. They announced the fatal 4-way for guys trying to get back into the thing. So we got Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, Matt Hardy, and Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews, who lost to The Miz in a decent match. Look, let's just call that spade a spade. Who's going to be in that match? Let's all say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Apollo Crews. I mean,
oh shoot! I played into it.
Yeah, you did. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Finn Balor. Yeah, there it is. Did you? Were you gonna say Finn Balor? Because I said Finn Balor.
Yeah, it's gonna be Finn Balor.
It's gonna be Finn Balor. Let's be honest here. I wanted to say Apollo Crews to mess you up. So yeah, it's Finn Balor. Apparently, the only match that I saw before, well, I saw the clips, the highlights of the match that I saw that happened before I started, got to your house to watch Raw was Balor and Carl Anderson versus the Revival, which is interesting because they didn't use Luke Gallows. I'm wondering if something's going on with him or they just didn't want to use him. They'd rather use Balor and Anderson. A little bit of history, though. The 2 of the 4 founding members of the Bullet Club, Balor and Anderson. In fact, it was because Balor and his bodyguard at the time, Bad Luck Fale, aligned with Carl Anderson was when Bullet Club really started. And at the time, Carl Anderson was teaming with a young upstart, kind of like the cross between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Tama Tonga. I mentioned those names because, things that make you go, Bad Luck Fale and Tama Tonga. Hmm. Hmm. Scratch your beard for a little bit and ponder that one. As we move on to SmackDown Live, which I didn't see any of. What can I say? I was busy. I saw a little clip. I saw two clips on Twitter. The Randy Orton RKOing everybody. And I saw the ending to the match. And God, how stupid! If they're trying to get AJ Styles over as an intelligent competitor, they have completely failed.
No.
Is AJ Styles talented? Yes. Is he phenomenal? Yes. Is he intelligent?
No.
No. Because let's be clear, AJ Styles running his mouth got him the 2-on-1 handicap match at the Royal Rumble. He was bailed out by the referee, counting the shoulders of the wrong guy, by the way. And so we have this match. It was Owens versus Zayn, and apparently they put on another classic. I'm not saying that because I'm a fanboy of both guys. I know, but they put on another fantastic match. And guess who has to interfere in the match? AJ Styles. And because look, this is the other thing. Shane McMahon honestly has no grounds to stand on here.
No.
Because every time that, let's say, Daniel Bryan tries to get Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn out of the picture without a hitch, AJ Styles has to do something wrong and Shane McMahon has to complain. It's like, Daniel, why do you keep giving them opportunities? Because the referee counted the wrong guy down. And if it happened to anyone else, you would be pitching a fit. So I'm saving your ass, Shane. God. Oh, my God. Shane McMahon. I know why he's doing it for the story, but God, do you have to come across as such an entitled prick? Oh. Oh my God, I know what they're trying to go for, but he comes across as such a prick. Oh, all right. So we have the match. AJ Styles interferes, and what the fuck? Why do you keep giving him opportunities? Because people keep interfering and getting the calls wrong. If they had got the calls right, we wouldn't be in this situation. I mean, let's just call that in. If AJ Styles doesn't interfere, we get a definitive finish, and AJ Styles wrestles that person one-on-one. He wrestles that person one-on-one. But AJ Styles had to get involved, even though he was provoked by Sami Zayn. AJ Styles could have just been like, "Yep, you know what? Fuck off, you know." I'm sitting here. I'm enjoying a good match. I'm sitting with my title. And oh my God, Sami Zayn's in my face. I'm going to get upset and push him. And I'm going to punch Kevin Owens too, because that guy deserves it. And oh shit. Oh crap. I just got a threat match. Oh well. And then Shane McMahon's going to come out next to you. Why do you keep giving these two guys opportunities? I don't know, Shane, because they've literally dictated our storylines for the last 6 months. They're the only reason why people tune into the show anymore. And the fact that they're with AJ Styles means that they're the only reason people turn into this show anymore. If we could put Nakamura with them, we literally don't need the other hour and a half of SmackDown. Okay, maybe the female stuff and the Rusev Day stuff. So after that, they don't need the other hour and 15 minutes of SmackDown. Isn't that bad? So...
Oh my God.
I don't know. So after Shane McMahon acts like a moron, he's gonna act like a moron next week, calling it, by the way. So the main event of Fastlane is AJ Styles defending the WWE title against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a triple threat match this time. So Unfortunately, there's not going to be a co-champion.
No.
But it's looking like this. But it's looking like we're setting up 2 matches for WrestleMania at Fastlane. But you never know. We might get a triple threat match at WrestleMania. We could get a fatal 4-way match at WrestleMania. But there's only one thing for sure. Shinsuke Nakamura is winning at WrestleMania.
Pretty much.
There it is. I don't have anything else to say about SmackDown.
That's the pretty much only certain thing we know of is Shinsuke Nakamura is winning the WWE title. That's it.
Shinsuke Nakamura is winning the WWE title, and Asuka's winning whatever title she competes for. That's all that we have for you on WrestleMania.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, a very light week on wrestling. So after last week where we had a lot of stuff going on. So, hey, that's what happens. It quiets down a little bit. It'll pick back up again around Chamber. Quiet down again. Pick up a little bit around Fastlane, then pick up a little bit by WrestleMania, and then it'll quiet down for a pretty good amount of time after that. So that's kind of the way things go. But all right, so again, that's why I wanted to do the wrestling now, because I knew we could get through it pretty quickly and then leave the rest of the show for college basketball. So let's jump back to sports and to college basketball. Before we get into the bubble talk, and again, this is the debut of the Bracket Bugle for the season, returning it now here as we come down the stretch the college basketball season with almost a little over a month before Selection Sunday. Before we get into bubble watch and kind of starting this thing off, and let's look at a little bit about what's transpired. We had some significant developments both tonight and last night. And of course over this last week as well, but let me chronicle what happened tonight. And what has been this topsy-turvy college basketball season, where I said there's a lot of good teams, and it's not easy to win road games, even home games now. So tonight we had a pretty significant statement here for those of you that wanted to see Tennessee do something that qualifies getting to the tournament, because they've done some good things. Tennessee tonight beat Kentucky in Kentucky, 61-59. They are now 18-5 on the season, 8-3 in the SEC. Kentucky is now 6-5 in the SEC and 17-7. So Rick Barnes' Tennessee team is going to the NCAA tournament, bearing a complete collapse. They are going to the NCAA tournament. So huge, significant win there. Northwestern, who everybody thought going into the season was going to have a good year, has had a down year. But tonight they beat Michigan at home, 61-52. They are now 15-10 and 6-6 in the Big Ten. So they have an outside chance still at a spot. Wichita State gets a much-needed win tonight after really just struggling for the last few games. Kansas is rounding into shape now. They had another win against TCU tonight, 71-64. They're starting to come along. Cincinnati is really kind of making a play for a potential 1 seed. They had a dominant win night, 77-40, and they are 22-2 and 11-0 in the American. So Cincinnati is rolling. Speaking of rolling, Xavier is rolling. They beat Butler 98-93 in an overtime classic tonight out of the Big East. Both those teams being in the tournament, and Xavier right now is looking very good for a 1 seed at this point. Michigan State got a win over Iowa tonight, which, again, they needed too because they're trying to secure the Big Ten for themselves. They're going to be battling Purdue for that. Yesterday, you had West Virginia beat Oklahoma, which was huge for them because West Virginia have been struggling of late. Syracuse beating Louisville, which is a huge game for the bubble because many people had Syracuse falling off their boards after the loss against Virginia and the loss against Georgia Tech last week. But they beat Louisville on the road, which is huge because Syracuse now has 3 road wins in a year where a lot of these bubble teams can't win games. And a lot of elite teams can't win on the road. Big win for them. And now they are very much back in play. And if they can get some things together in these last 7 games, they could be back in the mix here. And then other than that, over the last week, you had, Villanova beat Seton Hall. Washington beat Arizona in a classic. Washington's very much in play. Arizona State kind of got back on track. Purdue continued to solidify itself. Duke lost to St. John's, which is probably the biggest upset of the season. St. John's is tough in their building. I don't care what kind of year it is for them. They're tough. And Duke's got to admit to themselves they cannot play defense outside the zone. They can barely play a zone defense. That was a terrible loss for Duke. And Mike Krzyzewski said they played bad. They did. They played terrible. And their defense is just nothing. It's like North Carolina. They can't defend. And a lot of ACC teams now can defend. That makes things interesting. Virginia beat Syracuse. I mentioned that already. Xavier beat Georgetown. Oklahoma State beat Kansas. I said Kansas is rounding the shape. Well, Oklahoma State beat Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse, which is huge. But Kansas, for the most part, has still looked pretty good over this last week or so. So that one is kind of like a blimp on the radar. But still, they looked very, very good. Texas Tech continues to roll. Auburn as well. Texas got a big win over Oklahoma. North Carolina got a must-see win over Pittsburgh after they've been struggling. Clemson's been secured. Again, we talked about Kentucky. They also lost to Missouri this week, which is going to help Missouri's resume. Alabama beat a Florida team that nobody can still figure out because, again, they just win the game. Don't get in the game, you don't know what you're getting with them. Let's see. Anything else of significance? Again, Wichita State was struggling going into the weekend. They lost to Temple Friday, which is huge for Temple. Because they're having a lost season. Washington also beat Arizona State this week, so Washington has had a good week. Louisville has lost a couple. They lost to Syracuse. They also lost to Virginia a couple days ago. Let's see, anything else of note? Texas Tech beat Texas. Iowa State beat West Virginia. Yeah. That's really it. So some pretty seismic wins over these last number of games, over these last number of weeks, over this week, I should say. Some pretty big games that took place and some significant shifts. So especially tonight, and the SEC is looking like a conference going to get a lot of bids. And look, Kentucky, if Kentucky don't watch it, I don't think Kentucky can fall out of a bid. But they could end up in a very precarious situation as far as their seed. They really could. They are just, I don't know what's going on there. Same thing with Carolina and Wichita State and I don't think Duke, but because Duke's had so many elite games already. But some of these teams, I don't know. I know there's a lot more good teams this year, but it's interesting. It really is. So I kind of wanted to do that to set up the there you go. Mute. There you go. Sorry. I thought I muted the ad. I was wrong.
This segment is now brought to you by that crappy Mountain Dew commercial.
No, that's bad.
No, Brian, nothing can stop it. It's all the way up.
Oh, God. Anyway, I go on to kind of set the stage for our first bubble watch as the Bracket Bugle is now back. And, again, as we always do with the first one of these, and we'll get more specific as we go along because right now, we're in that stage. It's the first full week of February. And, there's so many teams and a lot of these teams are, going to be in, but right now there's just so many teams and it's hard to you can't go over all of them. So basically what we do with the first edition of this is we kind of give a general overview of where we're at and what the teams that we think are going to be truly on the bubble, the teams that we think are going to be in play, who might, that kind of thing, a general overview. And then as we go along, we'll get more and more specific, especially as we get close to the end of the month and when enough of these teams that either play their way truly into it or play their way out of it. So let's start with the ACC, which figures to be the league that gets the most bids. Most people think they'll get 9, maybe 10. At this point, I think Virginia and Duke are the only teams that have secured bids. Clemson looks like a team that will probably be okay. You figure North Carolina will be okay. They just might have a precarious seed if things don't get better for them. You figure Louisville will be okay, although they're starting to go in the wrong direction with 2 straight losses, so you have to wait and see. And you figure Miami will be okay. But again, kind of on uneven footing. But I do figure Miami will be okay. But they're in another situation too where they've had some struggles. So, and then Florida State, I think you figure will be okay at this point. But again, it's kind of like Miami where they've had some struggles, and they're in that stage where if they win a couple games, you'll feel better about them. So that leaves you with Syracuse, NC State, and Virginia Tech. At this point, I think NC State is in because they have wins over Arizona, Duke, Clemson, and North Carolina. And again, a lot of they have road wins. Some of these are road wins. So that alone, I think, gives them a little bit of leeway where they don't have to win too many more games to get in. As long as they stay around 500 in the conference and get near 20 wins, I think they'll be just fine because they have enough wins. They have some of the best wins right now in the ACC. So I think they'll be okay. Virginia Tech, I don't think will be. They got two road games coming up at Virginia and Duke. I think they need to win at least one of those. Other than that, I think that at this point they're 500 in conference. They're 16-7. I don't think they've done enough at this point. To be. I think they're right now. They're on a perilous kind of edge where they could fall off. So they gotta be careful. The next few games to be big. They gotta win at least one of these road games against Virginia and Duke, I think. And then there's Syracuse, who, like I said a week ago, I think people were down on, or a couple of days ago, I think people were done. But they beat Louisville on the road last night. To get to the 16-8, 5-6 in the conference. If they can get to stay at 500 in the conference, and get near 20 wins. Because the one thing that Syracuse did this year was, people didn't realize, they didn't play a lot of road games. They played a lot of neutral site games. They did play the road game at Georgetown, which they won in overtime. And they played a lot of teams that might end up being in the field either by at large bid or by winning their conference tournament, which helps their RPI and their SLS. So their stats this year look better than they did at this point last year, and they have more road wins. The problem is they just have not managed. We talked last week about how this year you're going to see a lot of people mention quadrant wins, quadrant 1, quadrant 2. Those are high quality wins, road wins, wins against elite competition. Syracuse has not won too many games against elite competition. I don't know if Louisville counts as elite, but it counts as a top tier opponent. And that's a critical win for them. Yes, it's a start, but they need to get maybe one or two really good wins to lock this thing up. And I think they've done enough on the road here. I think they've done enough on the road at this point. They've probably done enough, but they have to win a couple. They can't afford a bad loss, and I think they have to win at least one or two more big games, and that should be plenty. But again, that's a lot to do with only 7 games left. And given their track record in the ACC tournament, you don't want to leave it to that. So that's why I see in ACC right now. I think, Duke and Virginia are in. I believe Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, and Louisville, and even Florida State are probably all okay. Although Florida State and Miami, I think, are a little bit more tenuous, and Louisville could get tenuous if they don't turn this around quickly. I think Syracuse, I think NC State is in. I think they will be in. I think they got too many good wins, unless they really blow it. And I think Syracuse and Virginia Tech right now are on the edge. I think Syracuse has a better chance than Virginia Tech right now, but we'll see. Mike, your thoughts on the ACC when it comes to bubble teams?
I'm going to make this way quicker than you are.
My teams.
In the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about Virginia and Duke. They're in. Clemson's in. Even though I don't like Clemson very much, and I think they might be going downhill sooner than later, Clemson's in. Their resume is too good at the moment. Likewise, I agree with you on NC State. They've got the best wins, so if the NC State can get to 20 wins, they're definitely in. Virginia Tech and Syracuse are definitely on the edge. I agree with you. Louisville and Florida State and Miami are close. I definitely think Louisville is definitely closer than the other two. Well, all right, I won't say that. I think Florida State's closer than the other two because Florida State has the best wins of the three. But they have some work left to do. But I definitely think Louisville and Florida State and Miami are getting in. And I think Virginia Tech and Syracuse will either be one or the other.
Yeah.
It'll be one or the other. And I think it'll come down to who has the better road wins. And in that case, if Virginia Tech doesn't beat Virginia or Duke, it looks like it'll be Syracuse.
And, of course, Syracuse beat Virginia Tech. So there's that.
Yeah, too. they got the head-to-head. Yeah, that's the big thing.
There's that, too. So, yeah, so that's key if it comes down to both of them. So, all right, so that's the story in the ACC. The Big 12, I'm going to be a little quicker with because I don't think there's much divisiveness there. And so I don't think we'll be talking much about the Big 12. I think all these teams will handle their business because Kansas is obviously a lock. I think Texas Tech is going to be fine. They're 19-4. They're 7-3 in the Big 12. And right now they're on pace to keep. They're right there with Kansas. So I think Oklahoma will be fine at 16-7, 6-5. I think they'll be fine. I think if they get, one more good win. I think they're lock. But I think they'll be fine. I think West Virginia is going to be fine. I think they'll be in. That leaves you with TCU, Texas, and Kansas State. I think right now, the key for TCU is just getting rattling off a couple wins. They're 16-7, 4-6. They got to get to 500 Big 12. I know that there's this feeling that you don't have to be 500 in your conference. I think you do. I'm sorry, I would not put a team under 500 in their conference. I don't care how good the conference is in the NCAA tournament. I really think that should be a qualifier. But I think if they get there, and because that would probably put them around 20 wins, then I think TCU will be okay. And I think the same. And I mean, Kansas State right now is at 500 in the conference. Kansas State just needs a few good wins. That's really all they need. They haven't shown that they can play with the top tier conference. If they get one or two good wins, I think Kansas State will be in. That's really all it comes down to for them. And Texas has the wins already that I think. This has been very inconsistent. They win one, they lose one. If they can stay around 500 in the Big 12, right now they're 15-8. And really not suffer any bad losses and beat the teams that I think they can beat. I know the Big 12, that's tough. It's very deep. But if they can just win a couple more games and stay steady here, I think they'll be fine. Because they've done some good things already. So I think they'd be fine. So right now I see it as Kansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Texas Tech, all are in. Just fine. I believe TCU will be in. And I think Texas and Kansas State, we'll see. I think Texas will probably end up in. Kansas State's the only one I don't know because they haven't done enough against quality competition. If they get one or two good wins, they'll be in too. Mike, Big 12, your thoughts?
All right. Again, I'm going to go quicker than you. Hold on. I'm trying to get my thing back, but because I was looking at something. But the Big 12, I'm not going to talk about Kansas. Kansas is in. Everybody knows Kansas is in. I think Kansas State might not be in. Kansas State, and I'm saying this because if you compare resumes, Texas has the wins.
Yeah.
Texas has the wins, but Kansas State has the better record. And if you both finish equal, I take Texas. I don't take Kansas State over Syracuse. I don't take Kansas State over NC State. And I don't take Kansas State over any other team because Kansas State hasn't beaten anybody as of right now.
Agreed.
That's the long and the short. Kansas State's best win is Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's their best win. That's their best win, period. This year is Vanderbilt. They didn't beat Kansas. They haven't beaten Texas. They haven't even beaten. They beat TCU, I think. Maybe. I don't know. They haven't beaten West Virginia. They haven't beaten Oklahoma. They haven't beaten Texas Tech. If you're not winning against the top tier teams in your conference, what the hell are you doing? You can't beat up on the bottom feeders and expect to get in. If you're going to do that, you should go to the SEC. West Virginia. West Virginia's in. I don't know why they're not a lock. West Virginia's in. Oklahoma is definitely in because as long as Oklahoma gets 20 wins, they're going to want to put the Trae Young experience into the tournament. And as we watched an Oklahoma West Virginia game last night, which was surprisingly close, and I think Oklahoma could have won that game with better shot selection and maybe more offensive. What's the word? Options. That's not the word I was going for. But if they had gone to anybody else other than Trae Young about half the time, they probably would have been in a better offensive spot than just passing it to Trae Young and having Trae Young take a contested three every single time down. Oklahoma will be in the tournament, but they're not going to go very far. Texas Tech's definitely in. So yeah, I mean the Big 12 is in an interesting spot because, like, yes, you're going to have Oklahoma, you're going to have Texas Tech, you're going to have West Virginia, you're going to have Texas, you'll probably get TCU. Kansas State, unless you beat one of the good teams in your division, in your league, don't even talk to me about Kansas State. Don't even bother talking to me about Kansas State. Oh, yeah. Big East. Villanova, Xavier, Seton Hall. And probably Butler and Creighton.
There you go, Mike. That solves some time. I'm going to, obviously Mike moved on to Big East, so let's go there because that's where we're going next. Villanova, Xavier in, Seton Hall in, Creighton's in. Even though they lost one of their big players, they should be fine at 7-4 in the Big East. They should be in. As long as they do what they're supposed to do. Butler the same way. Again, they beat Villanova. That's Villanova's only loss. And that's the one thing some of these teams have done, like Butler and Creighton. They've gotten some big wins, but they've also avoided bad losses. That's helped their profile. It really comes down to Providence and Marquette. They have to avoid any bad losses, and they got a couple coming up with Georgetown, DePaul. Can't lose those games. And then if they can maybe get one more big win, and they got Villanova coming up, then that might be, even if they don't beat Villanova, if they just avoid bad loss, they'll probably get in. But if they beat Villanova, they'll definitely lock themselves up. Marquette needs a lot of help because they're 4-7 in the Big East. They probably want to get to at least 7 to 500. But they just got to win some games because that 13-10 ain't going to get it done. Their strength of schedule is great at 6. They got road games at Seton Hall, St. John's, and Creighton. They better win at least 2 of those. They got to beat St. John's. Can't lose that game. They got to either beat Seton Hall or Creighton. If they win all 3, then that puts them at 16-10, 7-7. You're looking better. So I'd say win all 3 of those games. You win 2 of 3, then you're still in the conversation, but you still have work to do. So Marquette right now I don't think will go. I think Providence will. Everybody else we mentioned will. But if Marquette can do some good things over the next 2 weeks, I think Marquette could get in. They have a lot of work to do. Because they just haven't done enough yet. Their strength of schedule is really good. So Big East done. Big Ten, Michigan State, Purdue are both locks. Ohio State will more than likely be in. They're 20-5, 11-1 in the Big Ten. They're in play for the Big Ten, which nobody thought would happen. So they're probably going to be in. That leaves you at Michigan, Maryland, and Nebraska. I think Michigan will end up being fine. They always seem to rack wins up in the Big Ten, which again the Big Ten's been down, so no surprise there. Even though they lost Northwestern, I think they'll be okay. 19-6, 18-4 in the Big Ten. Remember, Big Ten has played a lot more games, and their conference tournaments early, so they're going to be able to get some stuff done before any other teams hit their conference tournaments. So that might be a little bit of an advantage and a disadvantage. An advantage in that you might not feel as much pressure because you don't see smaller conferences before you taking bids, but at a disadvantage because you'll be done, and then you have no way of it's kind of like being in a golf tournament, right? And you're in the cabin and you're watching the other players and they get the chance to beat you and you don't have a rebuttal. You don't have the chance to go back out there and try to change your fate. So it's more of a disadvantage in my mind, but it is what it is. So I think Michigan will end up being okay. They're almost near 20 wins already. Maryland and Nebraska, Nebraska, if you look at their record, 17-8-4, you think, okay, they should be fine. They very well might be. But they haven't done anything. They've had game opportunities against Kansas at home, road games against Creighton, Michigan State, Purdue, and All-State. They haven't won any of them. So while their record is good and they've managed to avoid bad losses, they haven't beaten anybody. So, we've seen time and time again some teams get in just by avoiding bad losses. They might be one of those teams. But right now, I would not put them in. They could end up getting in, and I wouldn't really like them getting in because they haven't done anything yet. But if they do, then I don't mind it so much. But again, they're just that candidate that hasn't really suffered a bad loss, and the record's inflated. So we'll see where they go. But if Maryland ends up dropping off, which they could, then I could see Nebraska getting in just by default because they, again, have avoided the bad losses. So, and again, Maryland right now would not be in. They're 16-9, they're 5-7, and a down Big Ten. They got road games coming against Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan State. They have to win some of those games. And I think they have to be above 500. They can't be just at 500. They have to be above 500 in the Big Ten. Otherwise, I don't think they make it. They have not done enough. Everybody thought they'd have a good year, and they haven't. So right now, I could see a situation where Nebraska makes it and Maryland doesn't. Everybody else I mentioned will make it. If Maryland goes on a tear, then I could see Maryland making it and Nebraska not. I don't think both are making it. Mike, Big Ten, which I know you love.
I hate the Big Ten. But yes, Michigan State, don't pick them to go to the Final Four, and Purdue are definitely in. Although apparently I was not aware that there's a big scandal looming in East Lansing.
Yeah, right.
Did you know about this?
Had an idea.
Yes. And we're talking potential Paterno levels.
Mm-hmm.
Or excuse me, not Paterno. Patino levels. Paterno levels are a different thing. Patino levels. Scandal that might put the immortal coach Tom Izzo in jeopardy there. So there are things to watch in Michigan State. Anyways, Ohio State's definitely in. I will say Ohio State's definitely in. Michigan, Maryland, Nebraska. I'm going to go very quick here because honestly, Nebraska beat Michigan. And Michigan beat Michigan State. So those are the best wins for both of those teams. The thing with Maryland is they haven't beaten anybody. Maryland's problem is they haven't really beaten anybody. All right, if it comes down, Maryland's best win is against Butler. They played Butler and they beat Butler.
Right.
But if it comes down to Butler or Maryland, you fucking take Butler because Butler knocked off Villanova.
Right.
They had opportunities against Syracuse. So if it comes down to Maryland or Syracuse, you take Syracuse. They won the head-to-head. If it comes down to Maryland and Michigan, you take Michigan. If it comes down to Maryland and Nebraska, I don't know because they haven't played yet. They haven't played yet. So if Maryland wants to have a chance at getting into this thing, they better beat Nebraska. And they get another crack at Michigan too. So they might want to beat Michigan and Nebraska. Otherwise, don't talk to me about Maryland either. They're big. They're NIT bound. Nebraska is probably getting in. But if Michigan gets in, you probably got to take Nebraska too.
Sounds so bad. Sounds so upset.
You probably have to, but you don't want to. But you probably have to. All right, that's all I got to say about that shit. And Brian, speaking of shit, we're going out west.
Oh, the Pac-12, where there's no locks, even though we know there's at least one. and that's Arizona. Arizona's going to make it.
It's Brian. We're talking about the Conference of Champions,
Yes.
where a loss in the Pac-12 is better than a win in the ACC. I can hear colors and see sounds. Is there a better team in the country than Oregon State? The Oregon State Beavers are really chopping it, and that is why I am picking them to go all the way this year, because I'm Bill Walton.
Oh my God, Bill Walton games are awesome. They're just good. They're just surreal. They're surreal.
They're not good. Good is not the term I'd use there. That is not the descriptive term.
The Bill Walton experience is truly an experience.
It's an experience. And it's something you should at least see once. But we're not using the word good here.
But anyway.
Brian, to put this in perspective, I would rather use the word good to describe Tommy Wiseau's masterpiece, The Room, over a Bill Walton commentated game.
Anyway.
No, the pen. The Conference of Champions.
I'm going to make this one quick because this conference is awful this year. It's as bad as the Big Ten, if not worse. Arizona is not a should be in. They're going to be in. They've calmed down. They're all going to be okay. They'll be fine. Arizona will be in. I think Washington will be in as well. I think they've already done enough. I think barring any collapse, they should be fine. They're already 17-6, 7-3 in the Pac-12. I think Washington will be fine. And I think Arizona State, the only thing they have to do, and again, they've fallen completely off, but I think they did enough early in the season to probably be okay, because they're going to take at least 3 teams out of the Pac-12, even in a down year. So I think Arizona State will be fine as long as they go at least 500 in the Pac-12 and try to at least finish relatively okay here. They're 17-6. All right, they're probably going to win 20 games. So I think Arizona State will be fine. I think they'll go. That leaves you with USC and UCLA. UCLA right now, again, the Pac-12 is bad, so you can't look at the records and go, that automatically means you're going to be in. I don't think UCLA is in right now. I don't. I think they have games. They have games in Arizona and Arizona State coming up on the road. I think they have to win at least one of those. And then I think they have to avoid bad losses. I think that they do that, they might have enough to get in. But right now, I do not think they're in. I think they're going to be in the back of the line when it comes to again the bubble. I think you're going to see some other teams get more attention than them because of the fact that they had such a bad run for a while, and because they don't have, again, these Pac-12 teams are going to be at the back of the line because they don't have the opportunities to get good wins. At least the Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to have opportunities. The Pac-12 ain't going to have it. Unless you're playing Arizona, you really don't get that because people aren't buying really Washington, Arizona State anymore. They're good enough wins, but they're not gravity, they're not these big wins that matter, like these big earth-shattering wins. Like you beat Arizona and automatically it throws you back into the pool. You beat Arizona State and or Washington, it gets people's attention, but you need more. So USC, I think, has a better chance right now than UCLA. They're 17-7 or 8-3 in the Pac-12, but I think same thing as UCLA. You'd like to see them get maybe 1 or 2 good wins, and then kind of finish strong and not have any bad losses. If they do that, they'll probably be in. I think they stand a better chance than UCLA at this point because they've had a more consistent season, even though their losses are the same. But we'll see. Right now, I see only 3 teams. I see Arizona, Washington, Arizona State. One of those teams, you see USC or UCLA will probably end up making it. I don't think I see both, but one of them will probably end up being in. Mike, Pac-12.
Pac-12 sucks. All right. There is one thing I will disagree with you on.
Okay.
If it comes down to UCLA or USC, I'm taking UCLA in a heartbeat. Because it comes down to this. USC has no good wins.
No, I mean
they have no what's the word, Brian? Quadrant 1 wins.
Quadrant 1.
Quadrant A wins.
What are you talking about? It's the Conference of
Yes.
Champions.
It's the Conference of Champions, but USC has no good wins. The one thing I can say about UCLA is they have wins. They have good. Not only they have good in conference wins, and by the way, UCLA won the head-to-head matchup with
Yeah.
USC. So why the fuck would you take USC anyway?
Good point. Good point.
I'm going to be honest here. UCLA, they have wins over Washington, which is a good in-conference win because Washington's definitely fucking going. They have wins over. I mentioned USC, but that's not a good win. That's just a win they needed to have. Their best win. I think they hope that Wisconsin win might have been better than it ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
But they beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not in contention. But there you have, wow, the best win they have is versus number 7 at the time, Kentucky. Kentucky still going to the tournament. And Kentucky still going to be a top 5 seeded team. And that is the best win any of these Pac-12 bubble teams have. So
yeah,
so unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, Brian, but you're wrong.
Well, I'm wrong right now. My whole point is, where are we going to be in 3 weeks? That's about where we're at right now. Because
yes,
UCLA,
I know.
even with okay, go ahead.
Well, here's what I'm trying to tell you. Even with this, yes, I agree UCLA probably needs 1 or 2 more wins. But let's be honest here. I think USC really needs to fucking win out here. They need to beat Arizona and Arizona State and Washington to kind of get to where UCLA currently is. So honestly, and I cannot believe we're discussing the Pac-12 this long. I hate this. Arizona's going. Washington's going. Arizona State, unfortunately, is probably going. And with one of these other 2 teams, you take UCLA 100%. And if I'm USC, I better get quality wins in the next 3 weeks, or I better win the conference tournament. Otherwise, you better make plans to hit the NIT.
I would also say this, too, just to back up your UCLA point. We know that name value matters. We know that. We've seen it. So if UCLA is close, and again, you're right, they do have the wins, but even if UCLA is close, they'll probably put UCLA in over USC. Just by name value. It's the way it is. But you're right. Right now, UCLA has a very strong case. But they do have to solidify this because they did go through an awful rut, like a lot of these teams. But because of the fact that UCLA, lasted a little bit longer, and they're in a down Pac-12, it kind of makes it so that they still have more work to do. USC has
I don't disagree with you.
Yes, no, I know you don't. USC does have a lot of work to do to get, like you said, where UCLA is. The question is going to be this, and this is what you worry about with UCLA. They've been so up and down that you worry that they're going to have more down that's going to negate the good things that they've done. Because they've already done that already, where people kind of forgot they even did good things midway through the season, and then they kind of played their way out, and you're like, oh, yeah, remember, UCLA started off the season relatively okay, had a couple good wins, and then, you got to kind of remind yourself of where they were. It's not like North Carolina where they just had this rut now. This is a thing that's been kind of up and down, yin and yang all year for them. USC, on the other hand, has been a little more consistent. They just haven't beaten anybody good, which is why they've probably been consistent. A little bit more consistent.
But that's the problem. Even though UCLA's in a rut right now, then again, we're saying Arizona State's in, and they're in a fucking rut. Because look, they're in a horrible rut, but let's be clear here. If they get to 20 wins with their resume, despite their rut, we're in. So who cares about what if USC is consistent? If you haven't beaten anybody, so what? I mean, look at fucking Arizona. Look at Arizona State.
I think
they beat Kansas State.
Right.
They beat Xavier. Right. They beat Kansas.
I think the difference, though, is this rut has been one consistent rut with Arizona State. They started strong. They were in the top 5 in the country, and they fell off, and they haven't been the same since. Where at UCLA is, they started bad, they got good, they went bad again, they got good again, and then you wonder if they're going to go bad again. You're going to forget. I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of been this back and forth. Whereas with Arizona State, it's been what we've seen most teams do, which is they have one really good rut, and they kind of come out of it, and that's it. Now they haven't come out of it yet. If they don't come out of it, they could drop out of the tournament.
Arizona State? No, they're not.
They could if they go right now. They're 8-6 in their last 14 games.
Yeah, I agree. However, if they're not going to drop out faster than USC is going to drop out.
Oh no! I wasn't trying to say that. I'm just saying that Arizona State could still conceivably drop completely out of this thing. I'm not saying they'll drop out faster than USC.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know.
Right.
How a lot of these tournaments and mid-major tournaments are going to play out.
And the
bubble will shrink.
The Pac-12
and the Pac-12 is a weak conference anyway.
The Pac-12 and the Big Ten are going to suffer from the depth of the Big East, the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC. They're going to suffer big time. That's what's going to happen. None of these teams in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are going to have a case against teams like the SEC. I hate the SEC, but it's having a good year. Against the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC and the Big East. There's too many teams. So you're right. And right now, you would take UCLA in a heartbeat over USC. No question about it. And if they can avoid any substantial down periods the rest of the year, UCLA is going to be fine. USC, though, again, have to win. That's what it comes down to. All right, SEC. I'm going to try to make up some time here because I can't believe we just talked about the Pac-12 as long as we did. Really can't. Who would have thought we'd be sitting here at the beginning of February and Auburn would be apparently only lock in the SEC? And again, we're using ESPN's Bubble Watch, so if you want to follow along, it's the best one out there, I think. So, that's one we use. So the first edition's out, so if you want to check it out, it's on ESPN.com. Auburn's the only lock right now. Now, I kind of disagree with that. I think Tennessee became as close to a lock without being a lock as you can be tonight by beating Kentucky and Rupp. They're not quite a lock, but I think they're on the precipice of it. They're right there. They should be in. Kentucky's going to be in unless they just double win a game again the rest of the year. They're going to be in. But you worry about them, and I don't think they're going to have a long run in the tournament this year. That's for sure. All right, who does that leave you with? A&M, Texas A&M, Missouri, Arkansas, and Alabama. Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi State, and Georgia. So a lot of teams. We're not talking about every one of these teams, so I'm going to be very quick here. Missouri beat Kentucky. Kentucky's everybody's quality win this year, apparently. So they're in a position. Stay at 500 in the league, maybe get 2 more good wins. They'll probably be able to make it. A&M, I think they have to go 500 in conference. They also have to prove they can win on the road, which they've not done. They beat West Virginia early in the season. They do have that road win at USC, but again, that's not that great of a win. They will play Auburn tomorrow. If they can win that, then I think they'll be in. If they don't, then they host Kentucky. If they get that one, that probably both. If they get both, they'll be in. They'll be very much in. But again, I would like to see them, and I think most people would like to see them prove they can win a little bit more on the road, and also prove that they can be at least 500 in the conference. Even if it's a good conference, that's still you want to be at that level, even though that might not be a disqualifier this year or any year really anymore. Arkansas, I don't think is anywhere close to being in. I think they just have to start winning some games. I mean, they did beat Oklahoma on a neutral floor, and they beat Tennessee at home, but I think they need more than that. I think they need about at least 2 more good wins to kind of make themselves stay and be 500 in the conference. Alabama, again, I think they just need wins. Although I got a feeling Alabama has a better chance than Arkansas does. But I think they just need some good. I think they just need maybe 1 or 2 good wins to kind of. They're one of those teams we talked about tonight where they've avoided bad losses and the record's a little bit inflated. That's really what they've been able to do. Florida is the biggest enigma in college basketball because they could be a Final Four team if they play defense, and that's really what it's about. Florida is going to go to the NCAA tournament. They're going to be in. I don't even know why they're this far down the list. They have wins. They look the part. They'll probably be around 20 wins. Florida's going to be in, so we're not going to talk about them, but keep an eye on them because nobody knows what you're going to get with them. They're a confusing team, and for seeding purposes, it's going to be a nightmare trying to figure them out. But Mississippi State, I don't think we should even look at. And Georgia, I don't think we should even look at. Georgia's 13-9. Get a few wins and let's get yourself into the conversation. Same thing with Mississippi State. Beat some good teams, get in the conversation. Right now, I see it as this. Kentucky's in. Auburn's in. I think Missouri, as of right now, would be in. Tennessee is in. Florida's in. I said Tennessee twice. Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida are in. Missouri will probably be in. I think A&M will end up getting in. And then everybody else, right now, I'd give the edge to Alabama. Everybody else I don't think has enough. So we'll see if they can play their way in. Mike, SEC.
I'm going to go real quickly because I also hate this conference. Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida probably in. Going over Arkansas and Alabama schedules while you were talking and the resumes, they're about equal. I actually think Arkansas has a better resume than Alabama at this point in time. Now, I hesitate to take either of them. Because look, they both have wins over Oklahoma. Shocker.
Yeah.
What'd they do? Play defense on every other player? The answer, of course, is yes. But look, they play head-to-head in about a week or a week or two. So let's be honest here. That's how that one's going to go. We're going to see who's going to go, how both of those are going to do. Mississippi State, potential. No, maybe not. Georgia's out. Mississippi State's out.
Yeah.
Georgia needs a lot of help. But they have that St. Mary's win.
Huh?
They have a win at St. Mary's.
Yeah.
That for me, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't do much. But for tournament folk, it's a great quality win.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's a win over a likely tournament team, so that matters. Mississippi State, they're 1-5 against the best teams they've played. So if Mississippi State has, and yes, 17-6, 5-5 in their conference, if they want to consider being in, they might want to start winning games. So that's all I got to say about that shitty conference. By the way, Cincinnati's in.
Yeah, I don't even know why that's even a question. Because they should be considering for consideration for a 1 seed. Yeah, obviously we switch to the American now, folks. Cincinnati's in. Wichita State's going to be in. It's just a matter of where they get seeded because they're falling fast. And I actually think Houston's going to have a good chance. And especially if you're going to compare their profile to a team like Arkansas. They beat Arkansas. They beat Wichita State. So they got a couple of good wins. They're going to play Cincinnati. If they can beat Cincinnati, I think they'll lock themselves a bid. But they to me, they've done enough. I think Houston will end up getting in. I really do. I think Houston will end up getting in. SMU, I think, is interesting. Their SOS is terrible. They did beat Arizona on a neutral floor, and they did beat Wichita State on the road. That helps. So I think, again, we talked a lot tonight about teams that are avoiding bad losses and kind of inflating their record. If maybe SMU can do a little bit of that and stay over 500 in the American, I think they'll get in because they do have a couple. Again, wins over Arizona and Wichita State are good. But it won't. I don't think it'll lock up a bid if they do that because there's other teams that can probably do more damage. But I think you could see SMU getting in. But right now, I think they'd be on the out. But again, they have the 2 good wins, so that keeps them in the conversation. Temple's not in. I know they beat Wichita State, but Temple has to do a lot more to even get in consideration. Mike, American.
I'm going to go super quick through this one. Cincinnati's definitely in. They're going to be in the top 4 line regardless. Wichita State's definitely in. They're going to be a top 8 line team. Houston, I feel like, is probably in. They got to fill these spots somehow. SMU's got work to do. Temple's out.
Simple as that. I'm going to make it quick when it comes to some of these other teams. I think, first of all, Rhode Island's going to be in.
Rhode Island's in and Nevada's in. Those are out of.
Well,
we're not talking about those teams.
Yeah, this is usually we spend some time on some of these other teams. I'm not going to do that because here's the thing: Rhode Island's going to go, Gonzaga's going to go, St. Mary's is going to go.
I didn't want to talk about those West Coast teams, and it's 12-14.
I know.
So.
Well, I'm Mike, relax. I'm ending it. I'm just mentioning it just for the sake of doing it. And I don't like to do these other teams for one reason and one reason only, because most of the time, most of these teams are going to win their conference tournament.
More or less.
I mean, when you start to discuss them, is when you get to the end of the month and you see more than one team, like Boise State and Nevada are both in the Mountain West. So if it gets to the end of the month and we got both them still there, and only one can win the tournament, then you start talking about them because you figure one of them will have to make it as an at-large. So you start talking about them.
In that case, who do you even take as the at-large? So things that make you go,
And then same thing with Conference USA. Let's look at it and at the end of the month and see if both these teams are still in play, because only one of them can win their conference tournament. You know what I mean? That's kind of what the way you look at it. Right now, it's just too hard because some of these teams might fall off before the end of the month. And, we'll talk. I mean, St. Bonaventure, too, will be a team we'll talk about the next couple of weeks. But right now, their position is very tenuous because the A-10 is not looked at as a very good conference this year. It's basically been Rhode Island's, tour de force, essentially, this year. So right now, I'm going to leave these teams alone because, again, we'll see where they're at the end of the month, because most of them will end up getting in just by winning their tournaments. So,
although it is worth noting that Rhode Island does have to play St. Bonaventure at St. Bonaventure this week, so that could be huge for the bubble.
Yes,
huge.
Because they already have a couple decent enough wins by teams that could be or potentially could be in the field if they beat Rhode Island. Because Rhode Island's even though the A-10's down, Rhode Island's going to probably get at least a top 5 seed if they continue to win at the pace they are. So. That would definitely get people's attention if Bonaventure beats Rhode Island. Definitely. Again, I know we rushed, but it's the first week, and again, this is kind of like the start of it. As we go along here, we'll do things in more detail. More teams will play their way in or play their way out, and then it becomes easier to kind of compare and contrast and look at things and kind of do a lot more with it. This is kind of like our kind of easing you into it. We did a lot more than I thought we would. So, again, there's a lot of games over the next week that are of interest. It's rivalry week. You got Duke, Carolina. That's only one of the games. A lot of big games coming up over this next week. Check your, listings and see a lot of games that are going to matter as far as the tournament. I'm not going to go over them if we don't have the time, but you've already seen some significant games tonight take place that have major impact. And we're in February now, so every game has an impact. All these games matter as far as the bubble goes. So going to be it's every game's big now. So make sure you tune in. And again, then next week we'll talk about any big developments. We'll look at the bubble, all that good stuff, and there figures to be some interesting developments over the next week. And that's going to be the case the rest of the season until we get to Selection Sunday, and that's for sure. And another story to kind of keep an eye on. And this is more for the offseason than it is for now, unless you want to use this as a narrative to play into a nice little run in the conference tournament. There's been a lot of speculation that UConn might look to get rid of Kevin Ollie. They've obviously got some potential stuff going on at the NCAA again. And obviously, since the first year that Kevin Ollie was there, they won a championship. They haven't really done so well. It's UConn's athletic director said today that Kevin Ollie will be evaluated after the season. So we'll see what happens with that. Something to kind of keep an eye on here. Because remember, whenever you start thinking about coaches getting fired, that sometimes that motivates a team and you get a little bit of a run out of it. So that's something to keep an eye on going forward here out of UConn. So, but yeah, so we'll talk more college basketball next week in the Bracket Bugle and see how the bubble looks and everything else. So with that being said, we got through everything we had to get through. That is it for tonight. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show, and the scheduling of the show, topic ideas, or breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, or wrestling that you want us to cover. reactions, comments, or opinions on things we talked about on the show, anything we said, any of the segments, any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, hashtag itspotlight411 is a hashtag you want to use when you're tweeting at us on Twitter, so make sure that you use that. Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it so you can follow us, interact with us. Again, social media, you want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, get the latest information about the show, any scheduling changes, any of these, any other big events or big developments with the show we'll put on there. We also post random stuff on both of our social media pages, both of our social media sites as well. So Facebook, Twitter, follow us on both so you can have access to every major update and development, every comment we make, and all that good stuff. So if you want, and also so you can interact with us as well. So again, Twitter at IT Spotlight 411. Search for us on there and follow us. And on Twitter, on Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then like our page so you can follow us on there as well. 2 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411. On both those sites. And when you do, you'll be taking our show page on both sites. You can stream any of the episodes we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode. All the episodes available for you to stream anytime you want on Google Plus and YouTube. Just head over to Google Plus YouTube and search for In the Spotlight 411 to do that. If streaming's not your thing, maybe prefer to listen to us or just listen to us on the go because it's convenient, or you're interested in older episodes of the show, if any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on both Podbean and iTunes. And when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you'll have access to every episode we've ever produced in nearly 7.5 years we've been doing this show. So every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011, all of our episodes from Talk Show from January 2011, all the way up to mid-October 2015, and all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode. All those episodes are transferred into audio format for you to listen to anytime you want. Every episode we've ever done in audio format on Podbean and iTunes for your convenience to listen to anytime you want. When you want to listen to on the go, or listen to an episode from 4 or 5 years ago for the first time or again, or keep up with current episodes. If any of this applies to you, maybe just like listening instead of watching us. If any of this applies to you, make sure you check us out on Podbean and iTunes to search In the Spotlight 411. And you can listen to those episodes anytime you want. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes are your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. The ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites to be able to do all that and more. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
Time for bed.
Thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on the back. Thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. And to those that will be watching this later in archive, thank you to you as well. Or watching or listening to this in archive later, thank you to you as well. That is it again for tonight. Our next show will be Thursday. Again, we'll say it's scheduled for 9 o'clock from Eastern time, but it'll more than likely be at least 9:15, 9:30. I got the class again Thursday, but it'll be a shorter show. It'll just be entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights, film stuff. Again, time will dictate if we do anything else. If we do anything else, I'll let you all know at the beginning of the show on Thursday. Next week will be the same kind of schedule. Tuesday, sports and wrestling. Thursday, entertainment. And again, you know, next Thursday will probably be another later show as well because it's the last week of that class I'm doing. So, but other than that, you know, that's the schedule. And again, anything can pop up. You know, my wife can go into labor or whatever. Just, you know, watch our social media for updates if anything should happen, any changes and whatnot. So just keep an eye out for all that as we go forward here through the next couple weeks. So with that being said, that is it for tonight. A little bit of breaking news here. Apparently, Kristaps Porzingis has a torn ligament in his left knee after a home loss to the Bucks tonight. So doesn't bode well for the Knicks, who started the year well, and then things kind of tailed off, and now Porzingis is hurt. So a little bit of breaking news there. So keep an eye out for that story here as it, you know, as more details come out. But right now, that's all we know about that is that he tore a ligament in his left knee. So again, guy that's been injured a lot, another injury. And that's why it's hard to invest in a guy like that. So you wish him well and hope he recovers. That's a tough injury, very tough. So, all right. So with that being said, that is it. If you're going to be dealing with some snowy weather or the cold, be safe and hopefully you make it through okay. And we'll talk to you all again on Thursday for our next show this coming Thursday night, February the 8th. Broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Again, it'll probably be later than that, about 9:15, 9:30 at the earliest, so keep that in mind. So until Thursday, I hope you have a great rest of your night, great Wednesday and a great Thursday. We'll talk to you again on Thursday night. Have a good night, everybody.